Everybody sing that shit.
Things you missed from World Cup Day 10, Rudy takes face full of boot. Toni Kroos scored a sensational last-minute winner to keep Germany's World Cup title defense alive. Their chances of progression were boosted significantly with a 2-1 win over Sweden, while there were also victories for both Mexico and Belgium earlier on Saturday. Sportsmail has cast its eye on events both on and off the pitch to find the best of the things you missed from Day 10 of the World Cup in Russia. Romelu Lukaku passes on penalty call. Belgium opened the scoring early this afternoon against Tunisia after Eden Hazard rightly won and scored a penalty in the 6th minute. Just over 20 minutes later, the Red Devils could have been awarded the second. After Romelu Lukaku failed to control a ball from Kevin De Bruyne, the Manchester United forward tried to regain his composure but ultimately took a tumble in the box under the challenge of Farouk Ben Mustafa. While the likes of Neymar saw fit to draw an imaginary screen in the air and desperately make an appeal for VAR, Lukaku went against the trend. The former Chelsea striker immediately hopped up and approached referee Jair Marufo to let him know that it wasn't a penalty. Lukaku dusted himself off and went on to score a brace to become the first players with 2 or more goals in consecutive World Cup games since Diego Maradona in 1986. Eden Hazard's penalty sets new World Cup record. It took just 6 minutes for Eden Hazard to hand Belgium the lead against Tunisia. As the captain converted coolly from the spot, he managed to set a World Cup record as well. The first goal of the afternoon ensured that there were no 0-0 draws in the first 27 matches of a World Cup for the first time in history. It is the longest ever start to a tournament without any goalless games. Although the 1954 World Cup saw no goalless draws, there were just 16 teams and a total of 26 games played in the tournament. History looms large inside Spartak Stadium, with goals flying in at the Spartak Stadium this afternoon and Belgium's 7-goal thriller with Tunisia. There were a few fans who noticed a rather ominous figure as Wahbi Khazri attempted to knock a cross into Belgium's box. Set against the vibrancy of the fans filling the stands, the figure cut an ominous presence, with one fan on Twitter describing it as unsettling. The sculpture is part of a larger monument consisting of 4 figures, the Starostin brothers, the founders of FC Spartak Moscow. The tribute was installed near the north stands just weeks before the ground was officially unveiled. In 1942, the brothers had been accused of conspiring to assassinate Joseph Stalin. The initial charges were then replaced with lauding bourgeois sport before they were ultimately acquitted. What goes down must come up for Hamdi Naga's Dylan Braun had an unexpected afternoon. After pulling a goal back for Tunisia after 18 minutes, he found himself on a stretcher just 6 minutes later with a knee injury that cut his afternoon short. Hamdi Nagaz was the man tasked with standing in for the injured right back. No easy ask when having to deal with an in-form Eden Hazard in full flow. As the second half began, the sub was caught casually vomiting on the pitch. Perhaps the thought of having to deal with Chelsea's talisman and Romelu Lukaku chasing down a hat-trick was more than he could bear. Mexican fans keep the party going who need sleep when you're at a World Cup? Unless you're the players, of course. Mexico fans were so excited for their match against South Korea that Rafa Marquez had to go outside the hotel and ask them to quiet down so the team could sleep. Speaking of behalf of his teammates, the Mexico icon thanked the fans for their amazing support but said the players needed their rest to ensure the supporters had more to cheer on later in the afternoon. Marquez came on as a second-half sub for Javier Hernandez just minutes after the West Ham man had doubled Mexico's lead over South Korea. Following Sweden's heartbreaking loss in the final match of the day, Mexico remain Group F leaders, booking their place in the knockout stages and fully worthy of their vibrant, tireless support. Mesut Ozil dropped for Germany's win after Germany's embarrassing opening defeat against Mexico. Joachim Low was ready to mix things up and drop some of his biggest names to restore order to their World Cup campaign. There were 4 changes to the world champions side to face Sweden. Having been accused of having the body language of a dead frog by a former German international after their last game, Mesut Ozil was dropped to the bench. This was the first time in his career that the Arsenal star did not feature in Germany's starting lineup in a major tournament. He had previously started each of the last 26 matches at the World Cup and Euros. A message to you, Rudy. Sebastian Rudy's night came to an abrupt end after his nose was unceremoniously introduced to a Swedish player's boot. The collision resulted in a broken nose and a seemingly limitless supply of blood. Although his shirt was covered in blood and his nose didn't look like it was going to stop anytime soon, the midfielder signaled that he wanted to play on. With the voracity of the blow to his head, the German medical team opted to err on the side of caution and replace him with Ilkay Gundogan. Moments after the Bayern Munich star was replaced, Ola Toivonen scored the opening goal for Sweden.